Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to tonight's class. If you're tuning in, let me know you are here. I saw that Jean is already ready to go tonight. So hi, Jean. Thanks for tuning in tonight. If you couldn't have guessed, we're going to be doing a drawing class here of our buddy Chewy here, Chewy the dog. But not only that, we're going to make him a Christmas pooch. And so this is what we will be doing. So if you're taking this class tonight and you're going to draw along, I recommend you setting up your paper. And I just created a border. There we go. A border with tape. So that could create my border because I'll use it when well, I guess I would use it when I'm painting. I will actually be transferring this to actual watercolor paper, but this way it just kind of keeps things clean and neat and clean, and I don't have to do a ruler and all of that jazz. I guess I'm just lazy. And so tonight we're going to be doing Chewy. I've marked off this image for my students where you can see the red lines here. They are the halfway points of this image. So they're just there to kind of help you visualize and cite where things are located. You can draw your pencil down and check, know where things are located. It just helps you have a more accurate drawing. Now, if you're going for something more loose and fun and you're loosey-goosey, you do you, that's great too. So, but the fun part about tonight's class, and I'll cover it again here in a minute for anybody who's a straggler, but we're going to do a Christmas dog. This is one of the worksheets that my students get, and you can see I've drawn a Christmas hat on him, and we just want to make it festive and fun. Also, students got these images that help them visualize what a hat might look like on a dog to help it be more realistic for you. So I just included these in case you wanted to design a different sort of hat. Also, we'll talk about lighting in tonight's class and how you have to have the same light source when you are painting or drawing something that makes everything more cohesive. So we'll just discuss that a little bit. This is meant to be a fun class and festive and just, be in the spirit of tonight. So I hope you enjoy tonight's class. If you are not one of my students, but you want to draw along, I would recommend taking a screenshot of old Chewy here and crop it down, and you can use it to draw along with us tonight. All you're going to need are pencils, and I like to draw upright. Not only is it useful for the camera, but it's better for my neck. So, and also because I can sit away from things, I can see a little bit better when things are off. So have your photo with you, get your drawing stuff set up, and let's go. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's class. If any questions crop up for you tonight, please put them in chat and I will respond to them or we'll address them at the end of class. So, all right, let's rock and roll. All right, so we'll get started here. A couple things to note. You can see on the image on our left here, we have these tick marks in here. This is just kind of markers for alignment. So you can kind of look. I've also marked my paper. You may not be able to see it very well, but I've marked some of these on my paper just to help me kind of know placement and where I'm at. And I thought it might help my students as well. This image actually is in our Facebook group, so you can access it there. And obviously you can see on this image, they aren't perfect, but that is okay. It's kind of a quick and dirty marking session just to make sure that we know where our tick marks are. When we start drawing, we start with our big shapes. I'm going to look at my negative space. That's the gray area in this image here that is around the dog to see as far as placement goes. We are going to make some additions to this image as well. So keep that in mind. But first we want to draw our dog first and then get started with those additions. So I'm looking at the negative space around the dog in the gray, and I can just make some marks here that I know, like the top of the dog's head is sort of here in this area. We have kind of the ear that's going to be over here. The ball is not as far out on the side as the ear. So I might just kind of note that. We have the dog's chest here, kind of starting here, and then our ball kind of curves down here. So we're just starting with the big shapes. I'm noting where things are. And this might not be perfect in the beginning, but it's okay. We're just kind of getting our things placed here. And our head. And then over on this side, I'm looking to see where does his back come in. Maybe, you know, we're a little less than halfway between this mark and this mark. And his ear is past this mark up here, but not quite in that far. And you can sight with your pencil. I do this a lot, and we're using a light pencil. What am I using here? I'm using a 3B pencil here, but you can use a 2H, a B pencil. And like one thing I might note is we have this little pointy top of the head. I might mark that it's there. And we have a tick mark here, but our ear is not that high, so our ear might kind of come. And about midway is where kind of his neck kind of comes in here. And nothing is set in stone. We can just kind of look for placement. And when I say siding, you can't really see my finger, but like I can use my picture or my pencil to draw down a line to see where things line up. This is sighting this way, or we can sight this way. We're just getting this blocked in. We're going to talk about the construction of the head a little bit. But if we can kind of make note of these things, then we can correct them as we go along. And actually this kind of comes up here. And you can see how my pencil is, let's see, there we go. How I have my pencil lead cut. This is so I can use my arm, my whole arm, kind of with this setup here. It's a little funky. It's kind of off to the side for me to make it so you can even see this on the camera. But and what will happen is, because we're going to do a watercolor painting of this, what I generally do is I sketch this out and I draw on a piece of drawing paper, and then I trace over my completed drawing with watercolor paper. You can transfer, you can do however you want to do that transfer. But this allows me to kind of make marks and then transfer it without getting watercolor all over, or pencil marks and lead into my paint, because that's not something I really like. Okay, so we have this big ball. Now we kind of have him set up where we want him. his eyes are going this way, so I'm just making a note of that, and which means his nose is in alignment as well. He's got this pointy little head here, so you might start kind of with this round bit, kind of a circular bit for his kind of skull here. And we kind of have his ears coming in, and then we have his eyes are about a third of the way. Well, not quite. They're not halfway. So if I went to the center of the eye, and I'm using my hand and I'm sighting actually to my image. So the middle of the eyes is to the top of the nose. I'm just going to, because it could be easy to mismeasure. So if we might mark this as the top of his nose. I also want to mark the center line of his head because we're at an angle sort of like this. And this will definitely help. Let's see. We'll do our best here. So I'm marking that center line of his head, down his nose, and then just taking my pencil like this to my image and sighting his eyes. And they're a little bit, I think, more like this. If you need to, let's see, I have a kneaded eraser. These are fabulous. If you need to kind of correct some things here. And don't forget, you can always use your sighting lines up here to help tell you where things are. So here we might have an edge of an eye. Actually, I need something that's a straight line here. So the eye isn't quite out this far, but it may be here. So might mark that for one eye. Then I will look this way on my image. Where is that lining up? It's about midway. So it's probably about midway here. This is all so you can get a likeness. Now you can go for broke here if you want to. Let's make sure that we are focused here. There we go. But if you're looking to do a portrait or to improve your skills there, this is how you can do it. Of course, we have this plane here. I'm going to just say a couple more things here. Middle of the eye. So this would be the top of the nose. So this is one plane here. And we hit the top of the nose here. That might be. And we kind of see the top of the nose, but then it kind of comes down into this other plane here. I'm kind of just sketching right now, noting that. And what I can do is take a straight line here and see where this lines up the side of the nose. And it doesn't quite go to this center line. I'm using this to kind of, so maybe this is the side of the nose, and then the left side of our nose kind of, it goes through the center of our eye. I'm just going to make a mark here. I think this is going to change because I'm going to also sight in my eyes. You're using your arm a lot. You're lifting your arm a lot. If you're doing this at home, you'd be doing the same if you were drawing this in a instance where you might have a model. So about halfway here, it's kind of where this eye starts. And you can see this is how you can start seeing where these shapes are. And also you can compare one eye to the other eye by sighting these in using your ruler or a pencil, just a straight edge for me. Sometimes I feel like the pencil blocks out a little bit. So my second eye, my right hand side eye, might be here, starting here. And not quite to the center. Take my straight edge. I'm taking my straight edge and I'm kind of looking at my image. Now this is all for a likeness, but also kind of for placement, because then you can kind of use this as a tool. If you want to, you can just start drawing in circles, but I'm just trying to get things lined up. We have our skull here. We have our kind of our nose. So then I can start kind of drawing in these shapes. Might have to, oh, I have a 2H pencil. This would be why. We'll actually move to our 2B pencil. Okay. So we have this ear that wraps around and it ends about not quite half. So we can make a mark there. The other ear is at an angle this way too. So we can kind of mark that there. We can also double check between these 2 points where that ear is. There's not a lot of contrast in this image. So we'll kind of have it on the same tilt that everything else is on. We can block in and just observe angles also. So for the ear has some angles that help make its shape. And this is a tool that you can use your pencil for, to look at that line and look at your image and say, okay, what angle is that tilted at? Whoops. And then you can bring your pencil over just to help you kind of assess things. And it's just a tool to help. Sometimes I get off on my angle, so it's just a double check for me. This has a nice curve. there. And this will help me kind of also finish out some of these angles here with the face, because we've done our circle for our skull, but then we have where this comes in for our mouth. We'll look on this side here. And I'm checking to see where it aligns with my markers there for this cheek. And it's about here, so we also know that his head is at an angle, so all of these points are going to align to each other on an angle as well. Again, using my pencil to sight that line in. And you can even kind of see where your pencil would end up down here by aligning with the cheek on our image, which I can't show you, but it kind of lines up this way to his chest. And this is where this ball also kind of starts, so we can, I mean, this is a huge ball that he's got. So then we can kind of start to try to sketch in this circle that is the ball. This could be the hardest part, is trying to get a real circle here. And it's always kind of good to draw through, which means draw through what you've already drawn, to help you make sure that where it starts and it ends feels more accurate. It's a good rule of thumb. So that's a pretty, it's hard to see on the camera, but that's relatively close circle there. And I also can note that part of the ball. And still, we are at a point where if we need to change something, we can. And so keep that in mind. So I look at the overall shape of the nose and where it's kind of placed here. And it is smaller on this side, on this plane, than it is at the top, I feel like. So I've just kind of created that shape there. But I'm looking, might have to make this a little bigger so I can actually see it a little bit. So we can get the overall shape here of the nose. And of course, with this nose, zoom in a little bit here if we can. This kind of comes in, and this will come in, but they will be along the same kind of axis here. But we started with a bigger shape and we've moved to this smaller, more detailed shape. I've kind of marked the center here. And from what I can see, it comes down like that. So we And we have the center thing in the bottom of his nose. So we've kind of got that marked in. We'll zoom out here. And we'll get his eyes in here. We could start with these circles, and then we can work the shape around them because there's more to the eye than just the iris here. There's all this part that is around the eyes. So this is his jaw. We kind of have our neck here. And then with his eyes, we have the shape that goes around them. Oh, I need to finish my other ear too. I better do that first. So I need to look on my image where this bit here for the other ear is. So I'll look at my image and sight that in. It might be about halfway between these two marks. So I could probably, that little dip there, and then we'll just double check that part of the ear, how it lines up. That's about center here. Where this part comes in, where the ear comes in, you can look. It's kind of above the nose here. So we're doing pretty good here. And we have a bit of space between this part and here, more than we have on this side. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. It's kind of hard to see in this image how his ear is, but this is kind of at an angle. And if I'm looking this way with my pencil, the ear comes down this far, I believe. So it's really hard to see in the image, which you maybe don't see until you start kind of squinting your eyes there. Which means it needs to be a little bit lower here. I'm making this a little pointier than it is in the image, but just working to make things aligned. And I'm less worried about some of our wrinkly neck here. He just got a hair, well, I think in this picture he had just gotten a haircut. But we have some dark space here. We aren't going to get too tied up in some of that. We also have this kind of part of his jowliness here. But we're making headway here. And let's finish his mouth, because I might need to see where this part aligns with our eye, because everything aligns with everything else. And we want to make sure that helps us figure out where things need to be. And this actually comes all the way up here to the nose area. So my ball can actually even be higher. And bigger, I think. Because it's such a big ball. Now, if you want to lighten things, you can take your kneaded eraser and you can roll it. We do this for watercolor sometimes when we're working in watercolor. Whoops. All right, so we had a little malfunction here, but I think we're back. So, yep, just using the eraser to lighten some things there, and it really helps to stand back from your work as well. Because I'm sitting here doing this with the camera and everything, it's a little bit challenging, but I sit back from this and I can kind of look at my image and look at this as well. Of course, we want our eyes to be about the same size, unless there's some foreshortening happening, but there isn't any happening here. We were working on here. Just looking at placement, angles with our pencil. And shapes. So we're looking at this curve here. And I don't want my easel to fall apart again, but and sometimes you might also look to see where that curve is and where it aligns to. All tools to help you be better at drawing. I think I'm going to have to change this mark, but it aligns with the center of our eye. And this is part of the mouth. Now, what I like to do too, which we aren't doing for this particular class, is sometimes if I shade something in, it helps me see things a little bit better. But for this class, we're just trying to do a bit of drawing here. We'll do a little bit of line drawing. Okay. Now I can kind of assess and see, okay, we've got part of these eyebrows. We also have the top lid here. So things start looking a little bit better when we start adding these elements to the eye. Now we're still able at this stage to make changes, and that's why we start big and we move to the smaller part, because it all helps without getting too caught up in the details. Maybe you do the eye, well then everything has to align to that eye. You've gotten into details before you're really ready to. So I'm going to mark this bit, and just so I know, we have kind of this darker under eye part. I also can see that I've gone too far in this way. Which, by seeing that, then I go, okay, well, how does this line up with everything else? How wide is this to this? Maybe I need to bring this out a little bit. So these are all things that I consider when I'm drawing something, whether it's a portrait of a person or an animal, how these things line up. Now we have this kind of bridge of the nose area, kind of feel like it needs to be over a little bit. Might actually just put a pupil in here so I don't know if that makes him look crazier or what, but still checking to see. So when I sight here, this eye feels a little bit over too far, or my nose is not over. Far enough. It might be a little bit wider, so I'm continuing to, so this lines up kind of with my, past my center line. Come on. So that seems right. This alignment seems right here. Maybe. Actually could be maybe over a little bit. And I think I can bring this eye in a little bit more. Okay. There we go. I think we're getting a little bit closer here. Why do I have this mark? There we go. So just making some adjustments. And some of these are a little hard to see even if you have the image in front of you. So we'll just kind of now if I were shading this, I could shade this area around the eye. It'll definitely come together as we're painting a little bit, so just stay the course with me. But we have he's got some shading here. And all of the under part of the eye is part of the eye too. So I'm just kind of making notes here. We'll add a little bit of shading here for his pupil. And this lower, I don't have a great point on this pencil, but it's lower. Lid. And then he has this darker part. This is, you know, the bridge of his nose. A little bit darker here, this part. Comes out to the side here in this part. So it'll be a little bit darker in our painting, so maybe we just will note that. Now I feel like this part is even shorter than what I have drawn here. You're always kind of looking through the piece and seeing things like, oh, I need to adjust this, I need to adjust that. But and this would be a good place as I am sitting here, how I might get up and actually look, which I actually am going to do while I'm sitting here for you, because you can spot things when you stand away from a piece a little bit. Like I can see that we have this plane here. To note. And you would have it here. It's a little hard to see. Okay. So I'm also looking at the side here where the ear is, because it shapes the head. Okay, I've got kind of this squiggly line, and because we're not really going to shade it yet, we'll do that when we're painting. Just kind of marking there. Again, how I use these sketches is I get them blocked in this way, and then we'll paint it. And we can do all the shadow work at that time. So I'm erasing some of this so I can kind of continue to assess the nose here. I need some magnifiers, I think, here. This kind of comes in, and then we come down from what I can see here. It's a little hard to see in this image for me, but I think we have this dark bit here. Okay. So we can keep kind of moving through this piece and just double checking some of our lines, how they line up. We are at about 45 minutes here, so I'll move a little faster here. So again, I'm using a 3B pencil for this part, especially since I'm going to transfer this. It's okay for this particular part. We have this ear here. has these three. Again, we have a lot of shadow in here that will sort of impact this area. And here too. His wrinkliness. And you can add texture if you want to your ball. Again, kind of looking at where my markers are here and how they might relate. Okay. Kind of getting off my paper there. And there is this bit here that I am not sure what that is. I need to zoom in here a little. And just how the fur kind of lays. So it would be nice to be able to put in some shading. I think that would definitely help. And if it helps you to do that to create the plane of, say, the nose, because we have this part here that's at light is hitting this, and then we have this in shadow. So if that helps you kind of figure out where things are. And I just am marking here, knowing that we have a light. Our light source is coming from this way. So we're noting that. And I might just kind of block out this area, noting that this is going to be, you know, this is all our light area. Oh, but we are not finished, and we cannot forget the other part of this assignment. So we have our dog blocked in. Now we may make more adjustments, and you're welcome to do that. But now we need to do our hat. So I want to change things up a little bit. I did this intentionally for our students to think about different ways that they can illustrate artwork. And so in our workbook, I have taken this image and I've drawn a Santa hat on Chewy the dog. And what we can do is draw a Santa hat on this dog. That's part of the assignment for my students. Now you could be done here if you just want to draw a dog. That's good. You've learned how to approach it, and that's a great stopping point. If you want to take it to the next level, which I'm just making some notes here, then you can put a hat. Let's see, where's my pencil? You can put a hat on the dog by doing something like this. I did this in Procreate. But how do you get there? Well, you might find an image that shows dogs with hats. That might help you see how hats lay on dogs' heads. Don't use AI. I don't think it's going to accurately show you this, but here are a couple of examples of how hats might sit on a dog's head. Now that's obscuring their ears altogether. And you'll notice in this little white dog here on the far left, how that hat wraps around the head. Well, I tried to replicate this with our Santa hat wrapping around Chewy's head. And what's great about these examples is you can see how light might show up for them. I use them to create the hat, so I knew what a hat looked like. And so then I came up with this hat, and you can see for this hat, I kind of have it sitting. I'm just going to sketch on this. You know, we have the white brim area that goes this way, and the hat wraps around over her ear. I almost forgot about this part. So much like this, and granted, students, you can do whatever kind of hat you want to do on your dog. Maybe you don't want to obscure their ears, especially if you've gotten this far, then you have sighted everything in. Maybe you don't want to obscure their ears. For my particular dog, I am going to wrap that hat around, but maybe you don't want to. So we can go back to this image here, and you could pick a different hat. You could find a different hat online to put over the top of your dog. It makes it uniquely yours. That is just a-okay with me. Maybe you want a different shape. I brought the ball and everything over on this side to counteract the actual ball that he has in his mouth, but you can do whatever you want there. Let's see here, we'll switch back up. So for my drawing, maybe the hat kind of comes up. So I used a hat to an example to get this kind of sketched in. And of course I need to cover that, so this has to come all the way down. So this just helps you see how you could do this. Now, if you understand how to use Procreate, you could totally do this in Procreate and just do this in different layers like I did here on this image here. But since we're drawing, I just thought it would be a fun assignment to think about illustrating, like maybe you want to do your own kind of Christmas card with your own dog this year. So here goes my hat. I'm going to have to do some erasing. That's okay. And this, we have this little pocket of negative space here. It looks like a hot mess right now, but it's good. The thing that you want to keep in mind as you're going to be painting this and drawing it, if you put a hat on your dog, the one thing you're going to want to know is that your light source needs to come from the same place. You'll see it oftentimes with folks who are drawing. What their dog might have a light source that comes from this way. Their hat might have a light source that comes from this way. And you just want to have consistent lighting so it feels very cohesive. So I've tried to kind of illustrate in this image kind of the light coming from this way. It could be explored more, but that's just something for you to keep in mind as you continue your drawing journey. Okay. And I've been wanting to paint this picture of Chewy forever because he's so cute with his giant ball. So I'm going to erase out some of my ear just to help me render this hat a little better. I'm going to erase out my little arrow too. So if you have questions about this, feel free to put it in the comments, or if you have comments, you can put it down below. But I wanted you to be able to explore something different and something fun to make it truly your own. And this is a way that you can do that. And this is also a way that you can get away from your imagery and start having a little bit of fun. And maybe because my ear is here, this hat, it's going to come out like that. Now, students, you're going to have the luxury of, my watercolor rockstar students are going to have the luxury of seeing this painted. Maybe I'll have to change the cover image for this video so you can see the finished product. Man, we're doing really good for time. All right, so here's my ear. And you can go in with a, you could go in with a mechanical pencil, which I may do, and tighten up some of these edges and continue working on this. But this is how I would approach this assignment, especially given an opportunity to do something a little bit different. And of course, without his eyes in there and without a little bit of painting in there, he looks a little bit different. He looks a little bit like a lab, but I know that once we get into painting him, we will get a little bit closer with our portrait. You can kind of see if I start coloring in those eyes, you know, he starts getting a little, looks more, a little more like Chewy. But yeah, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in our chat. This is just how you can make get a resemblance, and also how you can go from your imagery to something different. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. Let's get to, see, I could keep working on this because I can keep seeing things. This is why I do think it is helpful sometimes, just as a side note, to continue to work on something, step away and come back, because you will always see something. The other thing you can do is take a picture of this and flip it. So flip it horizontally. to see if you see things that are kind of off, or turn it upside down in your imagery and see if something's off. Or you can turn it upside down, take your imagery over here, turn it upside down, and see what you might find that could be off. That is a good tool as well to get your drawings just a little bit more accurate. So, all right, let's go back to our main screen here and do a little chit chat, see how your guys are doing. Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to class tonight. This was a challenging one, so I hope that you learned something new and were able to take home a couple tips that might help your drawing. I'll hang out here for a minute. I know that I asked for questions. I know we have a little bit of lag in our filming time here, so if you want to go ahead and throw them in the comments, please do. Next week for my students, we will be painting this. Of course, you know, you at any time can continue to work on this or refine it. Mine's pretty rough. If I wanted to concentrate on cleaning up some lines, I can do that, especially when I transfer it to watercolor paper. And there are a multitude of ways that you can do that. You can use a light box to do that. You can use transfer paper and transfer your drawing to watercolor paper. And so, yeah, or even project it. If you want to make it bigger, you could use a projector to do that. Lots of ways to do it, or photocopy it on your printer, scan and photocopy, and you can do it that way. You can also use your printer to make your image bigger, especially if you don't have software for that. Yeah, so tell me what you liked about this class. Maybe you found it challenging and you didn't like it at all, but let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'm excited to take this to watercolor. We can really have some fun and give this image a lot of personality when we move to watercolor. That's the beauty of watercolor, because it's so light and vibrant, and I expect that we'll have quite a bit of fun transferring it. Also, kind of for my students, my goal is to maybe get updated with some of our videos and things for our portal. Also, don't be shy about sharing information in our Facebook group for classes that you would like to see in the coming year. I think these drawing classes have been really good for some students. We've also had some interest in maybe drawing some horses or horse anatomy or different parts of a horse. That might be something to also think about. I do paint a lot of horses, and so it'd be a great class for me to teach, because you're always learning a little bit when you're teaching too. So it looks like I don't have any questions. I do have a couple of hangers on in case they are able to add any feedback. Feel free to jump in at any time. Thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting this channel over the last year and growing with me. I'm grateful for y'all to be here, and really hope, because this will be the last live stream that we're going to do for this year, I really wish you a very Merry Christmas and wonderful holidays. I hope you get to spend it with friends, family, or your dog, because we know we love our dog. And of course, as Jean says, Santa dog. That's right. Chewy is Santa dog this year. All right. Okay, well, I'm going to let you all go to bed, and I will see you next year. Talk to you soon, and stay creative out there.